And I can tell you that 8 out of 10 of those students were there for their parents. We have to separate education from the outdated system. We're going to keep producing degrees instead of producing problem solvers. So, no, this isn't about bashing college. It's about waking up to the reality that the path to success has changed. If you're about to spend thousands of dollars and years of your life on a college degree without thinking twice, stop. Before you waste your time and money, you really need to hear this because I've been on both sides. I have maybe 5 different degrees, and I was a professor at the collegiate level, mentoring, teaching, advising hundreds of students. And I'm going to give you my unique perspective on why so many are questioning college or even the degree they already have, why AI is accelerating that shift, and what real options you actually have now. Hi, I'm Isabella, and welcome to Speaking of This. This is the podcast where we look beyond the headlines, just like this one. Let's rewind for a second. Back to what college used to represent. For decades, college was sold to us as the golden ticket. You graduate high school, you go to college, you get your degree, and in return, you're promised a stable job, a decent salary, some respect in society, and a pretty linear path to success. This wasn't just a cultural idea. It was drilled into us by schools, parents, guidance counselors, and even the media. There was this unspoken rule. If you don't go to college, you're going to fall behind. You're going to miss out. You're going to struggle. No one's going to take you seriously. Simply, you will not have any kind of financial success. And that's just going to spill over into your life in every way. You're not going to get the partner that you want, the house that you want, the car that you want. Now, let me be clear. That version of college, it did exist for a while back in the 70s, 80s, and even in the early 2000s. If you had a college degree, you really did stand out. It meant something. You probably would land that entry job right after graduation over someone who didn't have a degree, and then you'd be able to move up, buy a house, get that partner you want, maybe even pay off your student loans within a few years. But then everything changed. Tuition started climbing faster than inflation, faster than income. Wages, they stayed mostly flat. And for reference, I have mentioned I have 4 different, I think 5 different degrees actually, the highest of which is a doctorate degree. And guess what? Guess what my top paying salary was when I left the profession? 50,000 a year. Yep. I taught at a very high prestigious college, by the way, and at the collegiate level, ran a lab, published regularly in science journals because that was just one requirement to keep my job. My students were paying outrageous tuition, and guess what they thought? That we, as professors, were getting a part of their tuition, and the answer was no. I was not getting any of that. So let's just talk numbers for a second. In 1980, the average cost of tuition at a public university was around, I think it was 2,000 a year or more. Today, it's well over 10,000. Now that's just average, and those are still even low numbers, and that's just tuition. We have to factor in housing, books, fees, food, and most students now are looking at 25 to 35,000 per year. Now that's easy. Those are low on the low end of the totem pole. But if you multiply that by 4 years or more, and we're talking about some serious debt, the average student loan debt today in the United States is over $37,000 per borrower. And that number goes way higher for graduate students or those who attended private schools. Here's the hard truth. We were told that college was an investment, but for a lot of people, it's become a trap. Instead of setting you up for financial success, it has left you with decades of debt and a degree that doesn't always lead to a job. And many of you aren't even working in the field that you got your degree in. And add to the fact that most recent graduates are working in fields that have nothing to do with their major. And suddenly the return on investment starts to look questionable at best. Before I move on, I want to tell you, I can't even tell you actually how many times I would have conversations with my students about why they were even in college in the first place. And I can tell you that 8 out of 10 of those students were there for their parents or because society expected it, not because they wanted to be there. They're racking up debt, hated the path they were on, and had no clear idea of what the future would even look like for them. I'm not saying education isn't valuable because it absolutely is, but we have to separate education from the outdated system that college has become. This is one of the main reasons I left my profession because right now, the promise we were sold, the promise that I was part of selling to these kids, that college equals stability, income, and success, doesn't even hold up for most people anymore. And my heart was breaking for the countless times that I was mentoring these students who would literally be in tears in my office because they had spent years in college, they were about to graduate or had just graduated, and they couldn't find a job. And they had no clue what they were supposed to do. They had student debt that was racked up. They had been fed this idea that they were going to get this great job. And Gen Z is noticing this. Almost half of them now are saying, or more, that college was a waste of money. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't care, but because they're waking up to a new reality. Degrees don't guarantee jobs, debt doesn't guarantee success, and the system that worked 20 years ago is failing you today. So, what's changed and why is it so urgent now? We just talked about the promise college used to hold and how that promise really seems to be broken now. But what has actually changed? Why is it suddenly so urgent to rethink the college path? Some of you might be surprised by this. Let's just start with one word: AI. Artificial intelligence is moving faster than anyone predicted, and it's changing the job market in real time. We're not talking 5 or 10 years from down the line. We're talking right now. E- I had to learn AI when AI started really coming out, ChatGPT, Claude, all of these different things. I suddenly had to find myself scrambling to make sure that I'm staying on top of it. Jobs that used to require a 4 year degree are being automated, outsourced, or eliminated entirely. So don't believe the headlines that are talking years down the road that AI is going to take the job or things are going to happen. I want you to know that these things are happening right now. And guess what else? The skills employers care about today, they're not necessarily being taught in traditional classrooms. I promise you they're not. Because I would get my freshmen in straight out of high school and they would have difficulty with creative problem solving or even emotional intelligence. And these are the skills that employers are looking for right now. They want adaptability. They want also real world experience and digital fluency. And most of all, they want people who can learn fast, apply what they know now. And you don't need a diploma to show that anymore. You can build a portfolio, you can take a certification, you can demonstrate your value all by doing that. And in many industries, that means more than a degree hanging on your wall. I know that this is in fact true because so many of my students, recent graduates or about to graduate, they couldn't land jobs because they didn't have that real world experience or that digital fluency. And let me give you an example. A company hiring for digital marketing is probably going to skip right over you that has that 4 year degree in communications because that next candidate sitting next to you has a Google Ads certification, a portfolio of real client campaigns, and a YouTube channel where they teach tech marketing tech tactics. Well, why is that happening? Or why did that happening? Because that person sitting next to you is showing results. They're not just talking about theory. And showing their degree on the wall. This is the shift that so many people, especially parents, just don't get. They don't see it yet. The world changed, the job market changed, but the college pitch, it stayed the same. And it's leaving people completely unprepared. And let's not forget about cost. Here we are with cost again, because this shift is not just academic, it's financial survival. Student loan debt isn't just some abstract number or just headlines that you see out there. And there's a lot going on with that right now, but it's also delaying marriage, delaying home ownership, delaying having kids. It's causing mental health issues. It's causing long term stability issues. And yet we're still telling our 17-year-olds to take out tens of thousands of dollars in loans to pursue degrees that they're not even sure they want in industries that may not even exist in 3, 5, 10 years. And here's what I find wild. More and more of the most innovative companies in the world, I'm talking Google, Apple, they've removed degree requirements altogether. They're saying we care about what you can do, not what classroom you sat in. But many schools and guidance counselors are still operating like it's 1995. That's why this conversation is urgent, because if we don't talk about this right now, we're going to keep leading young people into a system that doesn't match the world that they're walking into. We're going to keep producing degrees instead of producing problem solvers. And we're going to keep telling people that if they don't follow the old script, they failed, when in reality, that script is outdated. So, no, this isn't about bashing college. It's about waking up to the reality that the path to success has changed and shifted. And if we don't adapt and shift with it, we're going to get left behind, degree or no degree. So, what is the real cost then of blindly following the old script? Let's get really real now. What happens to you when you decide to follow the traditional path without even questioning it? What's the actual cost of doing college by default because that's just what everyone says you're supposed to do? Let's break that down for you. There are three, three big costs that I want to talk about of following the traditional path: emotional, financial, and opportunity costs. Let's start with the emotional toll, because this one gets overlooked, I think, the most. Because we're painting college like it's this magical 4-year journey of self discovery. But for a lot of people, it's 4 years of pressure, debt, confusion, and mental health struggles. Students go in thinking they're supposed to have it all figured out. And trust me, this is what they think. I have mentored hundreds of students, and I would say 10 out of 10 times, this is what they're thinking. They should have it all figured out. Their major, they follow a track, they graduate into a career, they're making lots of money. But you know what's happening? Instead, they end up overwhelmed, lost, or worse, ashamed for not knowing what they want. Yes, ashamed. They would come in, sit across from me, and be in tears because they felt like they should have their path all figured out now, and they wanted to change their major. And usually they change 2 or 3 times. That's just an average. And I know this because I spent countless hours talking with them. Honestly, it was more like me just listening because they felt like they just weren't being heard. Anxiety, burnout, imposter syndrome, all of that is through the roof among these kids, these college students. And most people won't say it out loud. Most of them, the students, just simply would not say it out loud. Deep down, they were thinking, was any of this even worth it? The second high cost is that financial cost. Now, let's just talk money again, because college is not just a time investment, it's a financial monster for millions of people. I already mentioned the average student loan debt is over $37,000, but for many, it's way more. Some students have graduate debt. If they went on to graduate school, they have 80,000, 100,000, 200,000 plus in debt. And if you don't finish, you still owe money. You still owe it, but now you don't even have that piece of paper hanging on your wall. And guess what? If you don't get a job that can pay that student debt back, it won't matter. You're still going to owe it, but now you're going to be in much more debt. And it's not just tuition, it's books, it's housing, it's interest rates added on to the money that you borrowed to go to school, and all the opportunity costs we're getting ready to talk about. Because this is one of the most important things people never consider: opportunity cost. Every year, every semester that you spend doing something that doesn't align with your goals is a year you could have spent doing something else. Let's say you're 18 and you jump into college because it's the default thing. And 4 years later, you come out, you're unsure, you're in debt, and you're still trying to figure things out. You've lost more than money. You've lost momentum. You've lost clarity. You've lost time that you simply can't get back. So let's ask the uncomfortable question: what if you didn't go to college right away? You took 6 months or a year to explore, intern, work, volunteer, build something, learn a skill, and then decided from a place of clarity what you really want. You might still end up going to college, but now you're doing it on purpose, not by default. And that changes everything. There is nothing wrong with education, but there is something wrong with treating college like a life or death decision when most people have no idea who they are yet. We have to stop pretending that blindly following that old playbook still guarantees a win, because more and more it it doesn't. And the cost of getting it wrong, it's way higher than most people think. Because I want to be fair, I did have students who went on to be successful. Some straight out of getting a bachelor's degree, and some went on to further their education. Even though those numbers were few, they were still successful. So I'm not here to say that you shouldn't go to college. That would be irresponsible and frankly untrue. Because for some people in certain fields, it absolutely is still worth it. And also it's kind of a must. I don't want a medical doctor working on me that hasn't been to college, that just got some certification. So you kind of need to go to college and graduate school if you're going to be, a medical doctor, a pharmacist, etc. You get the picture. But the key word here is strategy. You have to approach it like a business decision, not a rite of passage or something that you're just doing by default. So let's talk about the situations where college does still make sense. You're pursuing a regulated profession that legally requires a degree or license, like I mentioned, doctor or law degree, engineering, architecture, clinical psychology. You're attending debt free due to scholarships, debt free financial aid. They have some grants, or your family has set up a trust fund, a college trust fund for you. That would make sense. And you're going to go to a prestigious or specialized school with very strong networking pipelines, because networking matters when it comes to getting that job or opportunity when you get close to graduation or you've graduated. And let's be real. Sometimes it's not about what you have or what you know, but who you know. So you're using college strategically to build your skills, to make connections, networking. And you're also building a portfolio while you're studying. And here's the thing: even in those cases, you still need to ask smart questions. College shouldn't be your plan by default. It should be your plan by design then. So here's some of those questions that you need to be asking. What's the real ROI? So your return on investment of this degree. Is the money, time, and energy you invested in college going to pay off for you? Will the salary or opportunities you get from a degree be greater than the cost of tuition, living expenses, student loans? And how long will it take to break even or actually profit from that degree. So let me give you an example of how that would work, how you could plug in these numbers for your ROI. If college cost you $100,000 and you end up in a career making $35,000 a year with no upward growth, that would be considered a low return on investment or a low ROI. But if you spend 30,000 to get a degree or certification that leads to a 90,000 a year job, now that's a high return on investment, a high ROI. So you have to ask yourself, if I take on this debt, how long then will it take me to earn it back? So if you have to pay, right? You're not getting, that free debt-free college. So if you have to take on debt, how long will it take for you to get it back? So can you attend without drowning in loans? Does the school offer real career placement support? And you should ask that question. That is so important, because if they're just handing you a degree and wishing you luck and not offering real career placement support, that matters. I'm telling you from experience with my students, that matters. Will you be able to build a network there? It matters in your long-term success. Can you combine your degree with internships, freelance work, certifications, or content creation to stand out? I almost want to tell you that you absolutely should be able to do that. In fact, I'm going to tell you that because it's going to matter for your long-term success. Because here's the truth. A degree alone is no longer enough. It might get you through the door, but it won't keep you in the room. And let's talk quickly about majors, because that matters too. Ooh, I wish I could tell you the amount of students that would sit across from me. They had a lot of questions. They were in distress, and a lot of times the majors they were in are because their parents wanted them to be in that major, or they thought they wanted to be in that major. And it really matters. And when it comes to if you're pursuing being a medical doctor or a pharmacist or something like that, you really do need to know earlier, sooner than later, actually, because it sets up your whole classes, your whole degree plan. But let's just talk majors for a second, because if you're paying $100,000 for a degree, but majoring in something with a projected entry level salary of $30,000 a year, you better have a clear plan for how you're going to bridge that gap. And no, I'm not knocking the arts, humanities, or social sciences, because yes, I think we all know that they don't really pay a lot. They are deeply valuable though, but you need to make sure your values, passions, and finances are aligned. And to the parents listening or watching, this isn't about scaring your kids away from education. It's actually about educating them. It's about equipping them with the mindset and tools that they'll need to make smart decisions, because the world that they are entering isn't the one that you grew up in. So, yes, for some, college is still a smart investment, but in 2025 and beyond, it has to be intentional. You have to run the numbers, do the research, and make sure it's the right path, not just the familiar one, the default one. There are alternative paths that you should seriously consider, because now that we've talked about where college still makes sense, let's open the door to something just as important: alternatives. Because for too long, the conversation has been college or failure, and that's just not true. There are more paths to success now than ever before. And not only are these paths legitimate, some of them are faster, more affordable, and more aligned with the world that we live in right now. So let's talk about certifications and online programs. Now, you you can now get certified in high demand fields from your laptop, often in the matter of months, for a fraction of the cost of a degree. So some examples would be Google Career certificates. So you've got IT, project management, UX design, also cloud computing, HubSpot for marketing, Meta, Facebook, digital advertising. These certifications aren't just fluff, okay? They're industry aligned and created by companies that are actually hiring when you have those certifications. Let's stop acting like trade work is a backup plan. Electricians, plumbers, HVAC techs, these are all essential, respected, and well paid careers that don't require you to have a 4 year degree and a six-figure debt. In fact, many trades make more than college grads with less, they have far less debt and way more job security, and they're making more money. Starting your own thing isn't just for Silicon Valley anymore. We're in the era of digital entrepreneurship, meaning that you can build something from your bedroom, your home office, your sofa with a laptop, Wi Fi, and a little bit of a vision. So you can start selling digital products, coaching, consulting, YouTube, podcasting, content creation, e commerce, drop shipping, affiliate marketing, writing, designing, social media management. You don't need to be a millionaire to be able to start these things. You just need to be consistent. And the internet has leveled the playing field. And what about apprenticeships and internships? Because learning by doing is so important. You can even apply this if you've taken the college route. You definitely need to do something like that because it's about experience. And it's the fastest, most effective way to gain experience and build a new network. So you're getting two two things there. Many tech companies now will offer those internships with no degree required. There are local businesses that often need help and will train you if you're reliable. And I know some of you are thinking, well, I'm not going to earn any money. And sometimes you can earn money while you're learning, and sometimes you can't. But I want to tell you that experience is currency now, not just credentials. Okay. Self education and portfolio building is how a lot of this is going to happen by all the things that I mentioned. But this is where it gets really exciting because if you're self motivated, if you can literally teach yourself and you can go any, you can Google and search how to do this, how to build this, how to, you can just plug and play, how to whatever, right? You can literally teach yourself anything, improve your skills publicly. So you can teach on YouTube, Skillshare, Udemy. There's so many different websites that you can do to teach your skills that you learned or already have learned. Build passion projects, share your work online, document your learning on social media. You don't need permission to start. You need a plan, a skill, and some grit. These are real valid plans. They're not going to come with a campus or a diploma ceremony, but they do come with something even better: freedom, speed, and control. And for some of them, debt free. And if you're scared to walk a different path, good. That means you're awake. That means you're about to grow because growth doesn't happen in a safe spot. So let's bring it all together. College used to be the default path to success, and for some people, it still makes sense when chosen intentionally. But the truth is, we're living in a completely different world now. AI, automation, rising cost of everything, food, electricity, mortgages, etc. You get the point. And there's also shifting job markets. They've changed the game. And yet the script we're telling our kids hasn't changed. The idea that you have to go to college or you fail, it's completely outdated. It's dangerous because the cost of getting it wrong isn't just about debt, it's regret, it's time lost, and it's the weight of following a path that never really fit you in the first place. So if you're in that moment of questioning, should I go? Should I keep going? Is this even right for me? I want you to pause for a minute. I want you to breathe. And I want you to ask yourself, what do I actually want? What skills, what passion lights me up? What future am I building toward? And think about your ROI. Then reverse engineer your next step from that. Not fear, not pressure, not tradition, just truth. because success isn't about doing what everyone else does. It's about doing what actually works for you. You have options, you have time, you have permission to choose differently. If this episode sparks something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who's questioning their path, who's feeling the pressure to follow one they didn't choose. And let me know, what path are you considering right now and why? Let's open up the conversation together. And if you want more tools to help you figure out your next step, subscribe and follow the podcast wherever you get your podcast, wherever platform you get it. Check out the links in the description and keep coming back. This is where we have the real conversation that no one's having at orientation. Thanks for listening. And remember, your future doesn't live in someone else's blueprint, it lives in your courage to start your own. Until the next episode, take care of your mind, body, and soul.